The Artpotter from Freiwaldau. A tale from the past of our homeland. Written by E.L. Translated into English by Emily Streets and Leonard M.K. This little incident took place in 1813, the year that finally brought the liberation of the German people from Napoleon's yoke. During this year, many families were in mourning because freedom had to be bought with sacrifices. Many fatherland-loving sons of hard-working fathers and loving mothers had fallen in battle against Napoleon's troops. In a house next to the market square of Freiwaldau, a small Silesian town, there lived the master potter Emanuel Britze. Mourning had also come to this house. His only son Heinrich, who had attended the grammar school in Sagen, had died. Heinrich was barely 18 years old when he joined the army of Field Marshal Blücher, and was killed in the great Battle of Leipzig in October. When Master Britze heard the news, he felt as if the sky had fallen on him. He dearly loved his son. He was the only son remaining, of 10 children. Heinrich had a black mop of hair above his high forehead. Heinrich was very conscientious, diligent, and gifted. Since learning was so easy for Heinrich, his father sent him to the grammar school. He was the pride and joy of Master Britze. Heinrich was to become a pastor, because his father was of the opinion that proclaiming the divine and encouraging mankind to do good is one of the primary tasks God has set for us. Following King Friedrich Wilhelm III's call for national mobilization, to my people, on March 17th in 1813, Heinrich no longer wanted to continue his studies and desired to wear the king's colors and join the fight. Master Britze and his wife Elisabeth were frightened, fearing for the life of their only son. Frau Elisabeth lay on her bed for many a night, with her eyes open and unable to sleep, because she was unspeakably afraid for her son. Emanuel Britze, however, kept all his worries hidden deep within himself, so that they would go unnoticed by his wife. When the news of his son's death was brought into his house, misery washed over Master Britze with an unbearable weight, and he pleaded, "Lord God, why did you let this happen?" Every day when he sat to work with his journeymen on his mugs and pots, cups and bowls, he always thought to himself, it could not be true. Surely he had not been hit by a bullet, and at any moment would run into the workshop, wearing his schoolboy cap, and would kiss his father on the cheek as he always had. He waited for the moment his son would rush into the workshop with his colorful schoolboy cap on his head, and would kiss his father on the cheek as he always did when he returned from Sagen for the Christmas feast. But no matter how often he looked at the workshop door, the door did not open. Sometimes in the evening he asked his friend, the old cantor of the town, to go to church with him, to the small, old, half-timbered prayer house that stood on the market square. The people of Freiwaldau built this little prayer house after the time of religious oppression, after Friedrich the Great had freed Silesia. He had promised and granted the people religious freedom, and the citizens of Freiwaldau consecrated this little church in 1753. In the church, Emanuel Britze sat down in a pew, while the cantor played the organ. What God ordains is always good, O God, thou faithful God. And many other songs were played that consoled and strengthened the suffering master potter as the music sounded through the house of God. When the two men left the church late in the evening, the stars were already in the sky, shining their light on the small town and its people with their joys and sorrows. At home, Emanuel Britze took his wife in his arms and stroked her hair with his right hand and said, "Forgive me, mother, for leaving you alone. Our old cantor brought me back to the Lord God with his organ playing." But when the dark days of November came, and the old cantor fell ill, he was no longer able to play songs to comfort his grieving friend in the evening. In this time, Emanuel Britze often sat wearily at the window of the parlor he shared with his wife in the narrow-gabled, shingled house on the market square, and gazed up at the stars. And then one evening he got up and fetched a piece of soft clay from the workshop. He sat down by the light of an oil lamp, and began to work the clay. It was not long before the head of a young man took shape from the earthen material. He was slender and with a boldly protruding nose with a mop of hair above the high forehead, and a narrow mouth with 2 small dimples in the cheeks, just like those Heinrich had, when he looked up to his father, or asked his mother for a favor, or thanked both of them for their love when he went back to the city to attend grammar school. When Master Britze thought that the head was now ready and had not turned out badly, he put it on the floor to dry. Then he baked it in the oven, but as a precaution he packed it in sand, so that it would not burst in the embers of the oven. When the Christmas month began, Mother Elisabeth's heart was again especially heavy, for how could the Christmas feast pass without Heinrich? Master Britze also suffered, but his love for his wife sometimes helped make him forget his pain. He had a secret plan to surprise his wife, whom he loved so dearly, and wanted to help ease her pain. As Emanuel Britze sat with his wife on the first Advent evening, tears again streamed down Mrs. Elisabeth's face, until she put her hands to her eyes, and began to sob loudly. Quietly and gently, Master Britze stroked his wife's head, and then departed with quiet steps. When he returned a short time later, he placed a small object hidden by a white linen cloth on the table. He lifted the cloth and said, "Look, dear wife, I have created this in my distress, an image of our son. With this I wanted to comfort myself and please you." Mother Elisabeth looked at the clay work of art full of emotion and amazement. "Truly," she spoke in a low voice, "like our son. Father, how did you ever manage to do this?" "This is no secret, my dear," replied the master. "The longing for the one who would never return, and my love for you have led my hands, so that I was able to create this little work of art. It just may be an image of our dead boy," spoke Elisabeth again, "but nevertheless, I thank you for it, Father. Only don't forget, dear wife." Master Britze felt compelled to admonish his wife. That real consolation can never come from an earthen image, but from the overcoming of suffering, which God has intended for us. In the days leading up to Christmas, Master Britze and his wife spoke of this and that, often reminding them of their son. Very quietly, the realization dawned on them both that all suffering can be best overcome by love, loving one another, loving our neighbors, and helping those in need. Shortly before the Christmas feast, the old cantor recovered and once again came to visit Master Britze in his home. The cantor saw the earthen head of the young man, and the news of what the artist Master Britze could do was soon spread from mouth to mouth in the small town. It did not take long for mothers to seek out Master Britze and ask that their children's faces be sculpted in clay. Girls asked the master to create a likeness of their deceased fathers, or mothers. And as difficult as the undertaking may have seemed, many such heads were admirably crafted by Master Britze. He succeeded so well that in the small farming village he was only called the Artpotter. There were many potters in Freiwaldau, but there was only one Artpotter. Years passed and Prussia had freed itself from Napoleon's occupation. However, whatever peace had been restored was not found in the home of Master Britze. That winter Frau Elisabeth succumbed to pneumonia, leaving Master Britze once again in mourning. Nothing held him to this earth any longer, and soon after God relieved him of his sorrow and loneliness, as he called him from this earth. The small works of art of Master Britze, however, were kept here and there in the houses of Freiwaldau for a long time. Some of them also left the small town of the Heathland and wandered with the children and grandchildren, and even the great-grandchildren of the contemporaries of Master Emanuel Britze, from Sagan to Löwenberg, and Bunzlau to Laubon, and Glogau to Görlitz. And it was there, in Görlitz, that I saw such a small earthen child's head, once sculpted by the hands of the great master potter, Emanuel Britze. The tender expression of the innocent little child's face seized me so that I was compelled to write down this story in praise of my homeland and its people.